beautiful souls. Welcome to Energize Your Passion, the podcast where we embrace the magic of life and light a spark in your day. I'm your host, Sunshine, and I'm here to remind you that inspiration doesn't have to be grand or complicated. It's often found in the quiet, everyday moments. Today, we're diving into an episode called Inspiration Everywhere, tapping into the power of everyday moments. I'll share stories, tips, and reflections on how the ordinary can become extraordinary if you're open to it. Plus, we'll have some listener stories that'll leave you smiling and maybe even a little teary-eyed. Are you ready to find the inspiration hiding in plain sight? If so, grab your favorite beverage, settle in, and let's jump in. Segment 1, Seeing Beauty in the Ordinary. You know, it's so easy to overlook the little things. We're always racing towards the next big milestone. But what if I told you that the beauty of life is tucked in those small, seemingly insignificant moments? Like last week, I was sipping my morning coffee when a bird landed on my windowsill. It had the brightest feathers I've ever seen. And for just a moment, the world stopped. That tiny encounter reminded me that life doesn't have to shout out to be meaningful. It often whispers. Sometimes those whispers come when we least expect them. Think about it. When was the last time you paused to notice something truly small? A dewdrop glistening on a leaf, the aroma of fresh bread wafting through the air, or the gentle ruffle of leaves in the breeze. These moments are fleeting but deeply grounding. They anchor us in the present and remind us to appreciate life as it unfolds moment by moment. You know, I recently read about something called micro joys. Have you heard of that? Micro joys are those tiny sparks of happiness you often take for granted, like the first sip of your favorite tea or the way sunshine filters through your curtains in the morning. Once you start noticing these micro joys, you realize they're everywhere. And the best part, they're free and always available to you. Our first listener story comes from Sarah in Oregon. Sarah writes, Sunshine, I never thought I'd find inspiration in my garden. But one afternoon, I noticed a single sunflower growing in a patch of weeds. That sunflower became a symbol for me, a reminder to bloom where I'm planted, even if the circumstances aren't perfect. Wow, Sarah, isn't that powerful? One flower, one moment, and suddenly everything shifts. Sarah's story reminds me of something I love about nature. It doesn't strive to be noticed, yet it's profoundly impactful. A flower blooms not because someone will see it, but because that's what it's meant to do. What if we approach our lives the same way, focusing less on external validation and more on simply being the best version of ourselves in the moment? I want to challenge you, my beautiful listeners, to think about your own sunflower moments. Maybe it's a time when you overcame a tough situation or found unexpected beauty in a less than ideal place. Hold on to those moments because they are proof of your resilience. Another way to see beauty in the ordinary is to change how we approach routines. Routines can feel mundane, but they're actually fertile ground for finding joy. For instance, when I make my morning coffee, I've started treating it like a ritual instead of a chore. I listen to the gentle hum of the coffee maker, savor the aroma as it brews, and take a moment to simply be grateful for the new day. How many of us rush through these little tasks without realizing they're opportunities for mindfulness? The way we approach our routines can transform them into moments of inspiration. It's all about intention. And it's not just about mindfulness, it's also about curiosity. Kids are masters at this. They find wonder in everything from a puddle on the ground to a beautiful butterfly in the park. What if we tried to see the world through that lens? What if we ask ourselves, what can I marvel at today? Instead of, what do I have to get done today? It's a subtle shift, but trust me, it can make all the difference. Next, we have a story from Marco in Texas. He says, "Hi, sunshine. I was stuck in traffic last week, and instead of getting frustrated, I noticed a little girl in the car next to me waving and smiling. Her joy was so contagious. It reminded me to approach life with childlike wonder, even in tough moments." Marco, thank you for sharing. It's amazing how inspiration can sneak up on us in the most unexpected ways, right? This story reminds me of something I heard once. Joy is an act of rebellion in a world that often pushes us towards stress and busyness. That little girl waving in traffic wasn't worried about being late or the long line of cars. She was just living in the moment, spreading joy without even realizing it. What if we all made it a point to spread joy, even in small ways? A smile, a kind word, or even just a moment of patience can ripple out in ways we'll never know. You know, there's a quote I love to say: "We don't see things as they are, we see them as we are." If you're stressed, overwhelmed, or distracted, the world can feel dull and uninspiring. But when we open ourselves up to the possibility of beauty, we start to see it everywhere. One thing I've started doing is keeping an inspirational journal. Every night, I jot down one small thing that inspired me during the day. Some days, it's as simple as the sound of rain on the roof or a stranger holding the door open for me. Other days, it's something bigger, like a meaningful conversation or a breathtaking sunset. The act of writing it down helps me hold on to those moments and sets the tone for even more inspiration the next day. So here's a little homework for you. You know me, I'm going to give you homework, right? Start your own inspirational journal. It doesn't have to be fancy, just a notebook or even the Notes app on your phone. At the end of each day, write down one thing that sparked joy or made you pause. I promise, it'll change the way you see the world. Before we move on to the next segment, let me leave you with this thought. The ordinary isn't boring, it's beautiful. It's the foundation of our lives. And when we learn to appreciate it, we unlock a whole new level of gratitude and joy. So take a deep breath, look around, and ask yourself, what's one small thing I can appreciate right now? That's right, right now. And don't go anywhere, because next we're talking about finding inspiration in struggles. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. Segment 2, finding inspiration in struggles. Now, let's talk about something deeper: how our challenges can be a source of inspiration. I know it sounds counterintuitive. Who wants to find inspiration in hard times? But think about it. Every challenge you're faced with has shaped you into the person you are today. It's true that when we're in the middle of a struggle, it's hard to see anything good coming out of it. Pain, disappointment, or failure can cloud our vision. But over time, those difficult moments become the chapters of our story that defines us. They're the moment that teach us resilience, strength, and even creativity. Have you ever noticed how some of the most beautiful art, music, and literature comes from a place of struggle? It's as if the pain has been transformed into something meaningful, a way of expressing the depth of human experience. And while not all of us may be artists, we each have the power to take our struggles and turn them into something that uplifts us or inspires, whether it's in our work, our relationships, or even just our perspective on life. I remember a time when I felt completely lost. I had taken on too much work, family obligations, trying to be everything for everyone. I reached a breaking point, and honestly, it felt like failure. It did. But looking back now, that breakdown was a breakthrough. It forced me to reevaluate my priorities and start setting boundaries. Struggles have a way of stripping away the unnecessary and showing us what truly matters. They can act as a reset button, giving us clarity and a new sense of purpose. And sometimes the inspiration isn't immediate. It can take months or even years to look back on a challenging time and see it was a turning point. So if you're in the middle of something hard right now, I want you to hold on to this. You are in the process of becoming. Even if you can't see it yet, the struggle is shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, and more passionate. Jasmine from New York shared this with us. I lost my job last year and felt completely defeated. But during that time, I started volunteering at a food bank. Meeting people who had so little but gave so much inspired me to redefine my ideal of success. I've since started my own nonprofit, and I couldn't be happier. Jasmine, you're incredible. Isn't it funny how setbacks can reroute us to something even better? I love Jasmine's story because it highlights the power of giving, even when we feel we have nothing left to give. Sometimes helping others during our own struggles is exactly what we need to gain perspective. It's almost like the universe gently reminds us that even in our darkest moments, we still have light to share. Jasmine's story also reminds me of the Japanese art of kintsugi. Have you heard of it? Kintsugi is the practice of repairing broken pottery with gold, making the cracks a part of the object's beauty rather than something to hide. Isn't that a perfect metaphor for life? Our struggles, our scars, and our brokenness don't make us less, they make us more. Think about a time when you felt cracked or broken. Maybe you've lost something important, faced rejection, or endured a tough situation. What would happen if you look at those moments as opportunities to fill the cracks with gold, to rebuild yourself in a way that's even more beautiful and meaningful than before? Our next story comes from Robert in Florida. He writes, "Sunshine, I went through a tough divorce, and it left me broken. But one evening, I stumbled upon an old guitar I hadn't played in years. I started strumming, and it became my therapy. Now, I write songs inspired by the chapter of my life. Robert, your story is a reminder that even in heartbreak, we can find healing and inspiration. Music is such a powerful way to process emotions. Robert's story shows us that creativity can be a lifeline during tough times. It doesn't have to be music, it could be writing, painting, dancing, or even cooking. When we channel our emotions into something creative, we transform them into something tangible, something we can hold, see, and hear. And in doing so, we take a step towards healing. You know, one thing I've learned that struggles often bring out parts of ourselves we didn't even know existed. I can attest to that. I have stories that resonate with a lot of pain that I've gone through, but I emerged on the other side, and so can you. They reveal our hidden strengths, untapped talents, and the depths of our resilience. Robert's guitar wasn't just an instrument, it was a bridge back to himself. If you're listening right now and feeling stuck in a struggle, ask yourself, what's something you're always loved but haven't made time for lately? Maybe it's a hobby, a passion project, or even a simple activity like walking in nature. Sometimes, reconnecting with the things that bring us joy can be the first step towards finding inspiration again. Another thing about struggles is that they teach us empathy. When you have been through something hard, you're better able to understand and support others who are going through similar challenges. It's like your pain become a bridge to connect with others on a deeper level. I can't tell you how many times I've heard someone say, I thought I was alone until I shared my story. That's the beauty of vulnerability. It creates space for connection. When we share our struggles, we not only lighten our own burden, but also inspire others to face their own challenges with courage. I also want to touch on the idea of reframing our struggles. Sometimes it's not about changing the situation, but changing the way we view it. For example, instead of seeing a failure as the end of the road, what if we saw it as a detour towards something better? Instead of viewing a loss as something taken from you, what if we saw it as space being cleared for something new? It's not always easy to reframe things in the moment, and that's okay. But over time, as we process our struggles, we often find that they are stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks. So let's recap. Struggles are hard. There's no denying that. But there are also opportunity for growth, creativity, and connection. Whether it's finding a new purpose like Jasmine, rediscovering a passion like Robert, or simply learning to see beauty in the cracks, our struggles shape us in ways we can always see right away. And remember, you're not alone. Whatever you're facing right now, there's someone out there who's been through something similar and come out stronger on the other side. Let your own story inspire you. When we come back, we'll talk about the power of connection and how the people in our lives can inspire us. Stay tuned. Segment 3, the power of connection. Let's shift gears and talk about how the people in our lives can inspire us. Whether it's a heartfelt conversation, a random act of kindness, or just a smile from a stranger, human connection is a wellspring of inspiration. There is something magical about the way we as humans can lift each other up. Sometimes it's intentional, like offering a helping hand or a kind word. Other times it's unintentional, like the way someone's courage, kindness, or determination inspires us without them even knowing. I often think about how the smallest interactions can create the biggest ripples. A kind word, a shared laugh, or even just someone taking the time to listen. It all matters. It's these connections that remind us we're not walking this journey alone. And isn't that such a comforting thought? That no matter what, we're all interconnected in some way. I'll share a little story of my own. A few months ago, I was having one of those days, the kind where everything feels like it's going wrong. I stopped by a coffee shop just to take a breather. The barista handed me a drink and said, "I added a little extra caramel for you today on the house." It was such a small gesture, but it turned my whole day around. It reminded me that even in tough moments, kindness is always around the corner. Have you ever had a moment like that? A time when someone's simple act of kindness reminded you of the goodness in the world. These moments stick with us because they're so pure and unexpected. They remind us of our shared humanity and the impact we have on each other. Lucy from Chicago shares, "I was feeling really low one day, and a coworker left a sticky note on my desk that said, 'You're doing great, and I see how hard you're working.' That simple act lifted my spirits and reminded me of the power of encouragement. Thank you, Lucy. It's a great reminder to sprinkle kindness wherever we go." Lucy's story makes me think about how encouragement is a gift we can all give. It doesn't cost anything, but it can mean everything to someone who's struggling. Think about the people in your life, your coworkers, friends, or family members. When was the last time you told them how much they mean to you? When was the last time you cheered someone on, even for something small? Let's take Lucy's story as a challenge to all of us. Let's leave more sticky notes, whether they're literal or metaphorical. Let's remind the people around us that we see them, we appreciate them, and we believe in them. Another powerful thing about connection is how it can teach us life lessons. Sometimes it's not even about what someone does or about how they live their life. Have you ever been inspired just by watching someone handle a situation with grace or determination? Those moments can leave such a lasting impression. I remember meeting a woman at a community event who shared her story with me. She had been through unimaginable challenges, but still radiated positivity and hope. When I asked her how she stayed so optimistic, she said, "Every day I choose to see the good in people." That stuck with me. Her outlook wasn't based on the absence of struggle, but on her decision to focus on the light. It made me realize in how we show up for others and for ourselves. By choosing kindness, patience, or understanding, we can inspire others to do the same. It's like a ripple effect. One act of positivity can spread further than we'll ever know. Raj from California writes, "I joined a community soccer league to make friends. During one game, an older player gave me the best advice. It's not about winning, it's about showing up." That phrase has stuck with me in every aspect of life. Raj, that's wisdom we all can use. It's not always about the outcome, but the effort we put in. I love this story because it's such a simple but profound truth. How often do we focus so much on results that we forget to appreciate the journey? Whether it's a new hobby, a work project, or even a relationship, showing up and giving your best is what truly matters. Raj's story also reminds us of the value of community. When we surround ourselves with people who encourage and uplift us, it becomes so much easier to face challenges and pursue our goals. And the beautiful thing about being part of a community is that it's a two-way street. As much as we gain inspiration from others, we also have the chance to inspire them in return. I think about the phrase, you never know who's watching, not in a creepy way, of course, but in the sense that your actions can inspire others in ways you might not realize. Maybe that's the way you handle stress at work, the way you show up for your family, or even the way you greet your neighbors with a smile. There's a quote I love that says, be the reason someone believes in the goodness of people. Imagine the ripple effect we could create if we all lived that way. Every small act of kindness or encouragement has the potential to change someone's day or even their life. It doesn't have to be grand gestures either. Holding the door for someone, offering a genuine compliment, or simply listening without judgment can have a bigger impact than we think. And when we make these small acts of connection a habit, we create a world that feels a little warmer, a little kinder, and a lot more inspiring. Another way people inspire us is through their resilience. Think about it. The people in your life who have faced challenges but kept moving forward. Their stories remind us of our own strength and potential. I once had a friend who went through a small, difficult time with her health. Instead of letting it define her, she used her experience to advocate for others facing similar challenges. She started a support group, and the community she built became a source of strength for so many people. Her determination inspired me to look at my own struggles in a new light. We all have the power to inspire others just by sharing our stories and showing up authentically. You don't have to have it all figured out just to make a difference. Sometimes just being honest about where you are and what you're going through is enough to give someone else the courage to keep going. So here's what I want you to take away from this segment. Connection is one of the most powerful sources of inspiration, whether it's through encouragement like Lucy's coworker, wisdom like Roger's teammate, or simple acts of kindness. We have the ability to inspire and be inspired by the people around us. As we move through our days, let's be intentional about creating these moments of connection. Let's lift each other up, share our stories, and remind one another of the goodness in the world. Because when we do, we're not just changing someone else's day, we're also enriching our own lives. Don't go anywhere, because in our next segment, we'll dive into how nature can be a profound source of inspiration. You don't want to miss it. Segment 4, Nature's Subtle Lessons. I've always believed that nature is one of the greatest teachers. Have you ever watched a tree sway in the wind or seen waves crash against the shore? There is something so grounding about those moments. Nature doesn't rush, doesn't force, it just is. And in that stillness, there's a quiet wisdom waiting for us to notice. I think one of the most beautiful things about nature is how it consistently reminds us of resilience, patience, and the beauty of change. Have you ever thought about how a tree endures every season? It blooms in spring, provides shades in summer, sheds its leaves in autumn, and stands tall and bare through the cold winter. Yet, every year it starts anew. It doesn't resist the changes, it embraces it. I remember taking a walk through a forest a few years ago. It was just after a storm, and I noticed how some trees had fallen while others were still standing. What struck me was that the trees still standing were the ones that could bend with the wind. They weren't rigid or unyielding. That moment taught me a lesson I carry with me. Flexibility and adaptability are the keys to weathering life storms. Let me say that again. Flexibility and adaptability are the keys to weathering life storms. Another incredible thing about nature is its ability to teach us patience. Have you ever watched a flower bloom? It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, days, weeks, sometimes even months. And yet, when it finally blooms, it's breathtaking. In a world where everything feels so instant messages, instant coffee, instant gratification, nature reminds us that the best things often take time. It's okay to move at your own pace, to trust the process, and to allow yourself the grace to grow. And let's not forget about how nature teaches us to let go. Think about autumn. When the trees release their leaves, they don't cling to them, they let them go, trusting that new leaves will grow when the time is right. It's such a powerful metaphor for life, isn't it? Sometimes we have to let go of what no longer serves us to make room for new growth. Carla from Colorado shares, I went hiking last fall and saw a tree with its roots exposed, but still standing tall. That tree became a metaphor for me. Sometimes, even when life exposes your vulnerabilities, you can remain strong. Those words are wisdom. Carla, what a profound observation. That story resonates so deeply. Isn't it incredible how nature mirrors our own experiences? Carla's tree reminds us that our roots, our values, our connections, our inner strength can keep us grounded even when life feels shaky. I think we all have moments where we feel exposed or vulnerable. But just like that tree, those moments don't define our ability to stand tall. They're just chapters in our story, reminders of how strong we truly are. And sometimes, when we embrace our vulnerabilities instead of hiding them, we find a deeper kind of strength. You know, I think one of the reasons nature is so inspiring is because it's so honest. There's no pretense in a sunrise, no ego in a flowing river. Nature just exists unapologetic and beautifully. And in its simplicity, it encourages us to do the same. Have you ever spent time just sitting outside, watching the clouds drift by or listening to the ruffling of leaves? It's such a grounding experience. It pulls you out of your head into the present moment. And isn't that what we all need sometimes? To just be present, to let go of the to-do lists and the worries, and to simply exist in the here and now. I once read that spending time in nature can actually lower stress and improve your mood. It makes sense, doesn't it? When we're surrounded by the vastness of the natural world, our problems don't feel quite as overwhelming. We're reminded that we're part of something much bigger than ourselves. And here's one from Ethan in Washington. I love watching sunsets. One day, I realized that no two sunsets are ever the same, yet each one is breathtaking. It taught me to appreciate the uniqueness of every moment in life. Ethan, thank you for that. Isn't nature just the best reminder to slow down and savor the present? I love how Ethan's story highlights the uniqueness of every moment. It's such a beautiful reminder that no 2 days are the same, just like no two sunsets are the same. And when we stop to realize, to really take in those moments, to appreciate the colors of the sky or feel of the wind on our skin, we're reminded of how precious life is. Ethan's story also makes me think about how important it is to find beauty in everyday life. A sunset doesn't have to be extraordinary to be beautiful, it just is. And in the same way, our lives don't have to be perfect to be meaningful. It's about finding joy and inspiration in the little things, the quiet moments, the simple pleasures. Another lesson nature teaches us is about renewal. Think about how the earth renews itself with each season. Spring brings new life, summer is full of vibrancy, autumn lets go of the old, and winter rests. Each season has its purpose, and each one is necessary for the cycle to continue. We too go through seasons in life. There are times of growth, times of abundance, times of letting go, and times of rest. And that's okay. It's all part of the journey. Sometimes we need to remind ourselves that it's okay to be in a season of rest and transition. It doesn't mean we're not growing. It just means we're preparing for what's next. I also want to touch on how nature inspires creativity. Have you ever noticed how artists, writers, and musicians often draw inspiration from the natural world? There is something about its beauty and unpredictability that sparks our imagination. I once met a photographer who told me he loved taking pictures of storms. He said there was something so raw and powerful about them. He didn't just see the rain or the clouds, he saw the story they were telling. And isn't that such a wonderful way to look at life? To see the beauty and meaning in things that others might overlook. So the next time you're feeling stuck or uninspired, try stepping outside. Look at the world around you. Notice the details, the way the light filters through the trees, the patterns in the bark, the sound of the bird song. The sound of bird song. Let nature remind you that inspiration is everywhere if you're willing to look for it. Nature has so much to teach us if we're willing to listen. From resilience and patience to creativity and presence, the lessons are all around us. So here's my challenge to you. Spend a little time outside this week, whether it's a walk in the park, a hike in the mountain, or just sitting on your porch. Take a moment to really connect with the natural world. Notice the details, soak in the beauty, and let it inspire you. And if you have a story about how nature has inspired you, I'd love to hear it. Send it in, and maybe I'll share it in a future episode. Because when we share our stories, we remind each other of the beauty and the inspiration that's all around us. Don't go away. Don't go anywhere, because in our final segment, we'll bring it all together with a summary of today's key takeaways and some exciting ways you can take these lessons into your own life. Stay tuned. Segment 5, wrapping it all up. Wow, what an episode. Honestly, I feel so energized from all of the incredible stories and lessons we've shared today. It's amazing how inspiration truly is everywhere if we just take a moment to look at it. Let's take a moment to recap the key takeaways from today. These lessons are like little gems we can carry with us, shining light on our path when we need it most. Number 1, appreciate the ordinary. Life's smallest moments can hold the biggest lessons, whether it's a bird landing on your windowsill, a sunflower blooming in an unexpected place, or even the simple act of noticing the colors of a sunset. These moments remind us to slow down and find joy in the present. Number 2, find strength in struggles. Challenges are never easy, but they're often the very thing that lead us to discover our greatest potential. From Jasmine's incredible journey to starting her nonprofit, to Robert finding solace and creativity through music after heartbreak. These stories show us that beauty can rise from even the most difficult times. Number 3, lean into connection. The people around us, whether they're lifelong friends, co-workers, or even strangers, can inspire and enlift us in ways we never expected. Lucy's sticky note of encouragement and Roger's wise soccer advice remind us of the power of small, thoughtful gestures and the importance of showing up. Number 4, learn from nature. Nature is a constant reminder of resilience, beauty, and change. Carla's tree with exposed root and Ethan's breathtaking sunset teach us to find strength in vulnerability and appreciate the uniqueness of every moment. Teaches us to find strength in vulnerability and appreciate the uniqueness of every moment. And of course, let's not forget all the listener stories that touch our hearts today. Sarah's sunflower standing tall in a patch of weeds. Marco's contagious joy from a child's smile. Marco's contagious joy from a child's smile. Jasmine's transformation through volunteering. Robert's therapeutic return to music, and so many others. You all inspire me as much as I hope I inspire you. Here's the thing. These lessons aren't just words. They're tools, little reminders to carry with you as you go about your day. Life is full of distractions, challenges, and noise. But when you take the time to pause and reflect, we uncover so much beauty and meaning. I think what I love most about today's episode is how universal these lessons are. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. Everyone can find inspiration in the ordinary, strength in struggles, connection through kindness, and wisdom in nature. These are truths that bind us together. So, my friends, here's my challenge for you this week. Take just a few moments each day to look for inspiration. Maybe it's in the ways sunlight dances through your window, the laugh of a loved one, or even the sound of rain. Write it down, take a picture, or just savor it. The more we train ourselves to notice the beauty around us, the more it becomes second nature. And if today's episode resonated with you, share with a friend who might need a little extra positivity. You never know whose day you might brighten with a simple gesture like sharing a podcast. And don't forget to leave us a 5-star rating. It helps energize your passion, reach more beautiful souls like you. I also love to hear your stories of everyday inspiration. Email me or share them on social media using the hashtag EnergizeURPassion. Your stories not only fuel this podcast, but remind us all that we're on this journey together. Until next time, keep finding music in the mundane, beauty in the ordinary, and inspiration everywhere. Life is a series of moments, and it's up to us to make those moments count. Remember, the power to find inspiration lies within you. It's not about waiting for grand moments. It's about noticing the small ones and letting them light up your world. Together, we can create a ripple effect of positivity, one story, one smile, one moment at a time. Stay radiant, my friends. This is Sunshine, signing off.